What's happening?
What's up?
How you doing?
Good. I'm excited to be here. I feel
I'm
really honored to be on Agent to CEO live with John Kitchens.
I'm excited to have you on, and we're coming up on almost a year that had the initial kind of conversation with Kevin,
Mhm.
and just kind of telling me kind of his vision and what he's thinking and what he was wanting to do, and
Mhm.
what there's really no better person to really jump in and really embody what the agent to CEO evolution and really kind of what it's about. And we all have our journeys, especially those of us that kind of came into an organization and worked our way and being able to really take that over. But agent to CEO is also not only the CEO of your business, but also really just becoming the CEO of your life,
Mhm.
and really how the steps and the growth and the evolution and really what it represents and what it stands for. So I'm excited to have you on and
Yeah.
talk about your journey and story and kind of where you've been, where you're at, and where you're going to go. So
Yeah.
let's give a
It's
welcome.
been a journey.
Yeah.
20 years this year. This
So
month.
experience in the industry. Give a little bit of background. Let's give folks a little bit of your story so they can kind of understand
Uh
why I'm excited
so
to have you on.
so my uncle Kevin Hildebrand has been in the business 30 years this year, and always has been someone that I've looked up to tremendously, whether personally, professionally. Um, he started his real estate career just by a mentor and got into that and got into it full speed. And really, in the early 90s, took over the Cincinnati market with himself. Um, so as I grew up, I was always around him. My brother and I both spent a lot of time with him and my aunt. And so I was always around it. Take your daughter to work day. I chose not to go with my own dad. I would go with Kevin. Um, then I graduated high school early and wanted a second job. So I just went into Kevin's office and said, "Hey, is there anything I can do to help you? Is there anything I can do around the office to make a little extra money?" And that was all she wrote. I never left. um, I started literally setting showings when you used to have to call. You'd print out the sheets, you'd get voicemails, you didn't get confirmation, you have to call, keep calling, keep calling. Um, and writing envelopes. He did a ton of mailer material back then, and that was my job. So as things progressed and I was there about a year or so, he started having me do more things. I would go out on showings with him. I would see how he interacted with these clients on listings with buyers, kind of what he looked for when he was showing houses, that sort of thing. Um, and then I transitioned into a listings manager. So every time he set a listing appointment, got the paperwork, he'd hand it to me. I'd call the client. I would go out, measure, take pictures, all of that. Um, and then from there, it started to transition a little further. I was 16 years old when I started there. So he was very adamant that I was not going to get my license until I was later on in life, in my 20s, which I at the time was so eager to do, but now in hindsight I see how impactful that was to probably the agent that I am now. Um, and learning all of those different areas of the business that are the back end things. So kind of following up to Joel and how the operations behind the scene that is everything that I wanted to know. I love systems. So I got my license in 2010 and started selling immediately. So obviously my production when I was a young agent wasn't as high, but I enjoyed it. It was learning for me. And then once I got my license, I did transaction coordinating for a while. That was probably one of my favorite things just because it's so systematic and I just love that part of it. And then it kind of transitioned in more of a role to taking on handling a lot of Kevin's business. Once he got someone under contract, we were kind of a joint thing. So if you got Kevin, you got me, you needed someone to, you needed to talk to someone, I was the person that you'd call. So it has evolved into that. And most people, when they meet with Kevin, know that it's he and I as kind of one person. And we always joke because we actually do think very alike when it comes to doing deals, doing listings. How do we get this sold? How do we navigate this challenge with this property or this inspection? But we are also very different in the sense that he's more of the idea guy, and I'm more of the person that takes that idea and tries to fulfill, that want. So I sell alongside just kind of managing our office, and being just a support system to agents on our team, agents in our downline. I handle the actual business coming in. My Uncle Mike is another part of the Hildebrand team. So it's the three of us. And he's the ground and pound, boots on the ground guy. He's a hustler. Selling is his game. So he's very good at converting, fulfilling. And again, like having a support system on his back end side so he can continue to just sell with Allison, who's our transaction coordinator now, and myself, just as his support. So if he's out showing multiple properties to multiple people, needs contracts written, I can have those contracts written for him in 10 minutes as he's driving to his other appointment. So I tend to wear a lot of hats, and that's where kind of the vision of Kevin and what he wants to do with the Hildebrand team, and where we want that to go, and the legacy that we want to leave. That word always sticks out to me from the first KT that I attended in September. After probably 5-6 months of us coaching together, that word really just hits home for me constantly. And having my two uncles, we work alongside each other and have for 20 years. Mike's been doing it 25, Kevin's been doing it 30. It is about family for us. So making sure that we do leave a good stamp on what we've done in the last combined 75 years. And I think our business in that time has shown that we do leave that stamp on people. We have a tremendous amount of referral and repeat business. And I think that goes to show how we care about our clients and the extra care that we may give them. There's plenty of times that we've done stuff that I don't know that a normal listing agent might do. We've gone in and fixed things. We've gone in and moved people out. We've, taken on a lot of roles when it comes to that. But one thing that comes to mind is that legacy, and also what backs up that legacy. And that's, we are a get it done group. Yeah. So if there's one thing that we know how to do, it is to hustle. Now, when when you get into that hustle mode and things are crazy, as we all know, the last couple of years in the real estate market have been really crazy. I have really struggled to keep all that structure there. And instead of me wearing 25 hats and Kevin wearing 10, we're trying, the goal with coaching with you was to not condense it, but just figure out what we needed. What do we need? And then also, how do we get more business? So after this long in the business, we started feeling a little stagnant. And that was probably one of the first conversations that we had together. And trying to figure out, how do we rebrand ourselves in our wheelhouse that we've done all of this business in, since 1994 in total, with Kevin alone, Kevin with Mike, Mike, and I. We have sold over 5,500 houses. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That database is huge. And that's a huge referral base. And we started to feel like we were slipping from top of mind with a lot of people.
Yeah. That was a big initiative, I think, just kind of that extra shot in the arm. And, you don't do anything for a decade, let alone 3 decades, if you're not doing the right thing and adding a ton of value, really caring about the community, have that reputation, right? To where you guys are able to continue to, impact and help a tremendous amount of people. It's just, nothing like that exists that long. And so it's really awesome to see. And I think too, with kind of the transition and where, like I said, we're coming up, a year, that initial conversation that I had with Kevin, and knowing that, I think for him, the legacy of you stepping in having more of a vocal and integral part of the next phase of the organization. And it's driven with anybody, right? Even if it's yours, but it's also that mindset and thinking so far down the road. And most real estate agents struggle with thinking beyond the next commission check, let alone, thinking 20, 25, 30 years in, right? And how do you, the guiding, what I would love to maybe get a little bit of insight from you, the grounding, principles and values that really have kept you guys together. And, because a lot of real estate is family driven. At least that's how it starts. It starts out very, very family. Hey, we're going to do this together type of business. And I see it all the time. Being able to how to navigate that, how to maintain the family dynamic, which can get messy, versus kind of the team mentality where everybody has a particular role and their responsibility is to execute the role as best they can. So it's a little bit of shift in that thinking. But I guess for you, that I would love for you to share, because it just made me kind of think, back to even my journey. I came in on the operational side, more integrator operations type role, when integrator wasn't even a thing. And just being able to put the train on the tracks and build some stability for us to grow. But where I became really well-rounded is when I actually did get into the trenches. And I was just by, kind of sheer what's going on in the market, things that had happened, kind of transitional phase. I mean, I had to get into sell. I had no other option. Go get a job somewhere, but that wasn't in the card. So it was definitely getting in the trenches, and it made me just more well-rounded, be able to see it all the way. And I could have an understanding, the back end, the operations, out in the trenches, the sales, know what it means to count on that commission check. And I think that's just part of the growth and the evolution that really to build anything sustainable, you've got to have all of that experience. But for you guys, I mean, kind of reflecting back on it, I mean, what has been key to longevity?
You know, like you said, family, it's hard to work with family because there's an emotional part of it that you have to remember we're all in this together. The three of us are very close. So, you know, Mike's success is important to me. Kevin's success is important to me. My success is important to them. And together, the three of us makes one larger picture, because if one of us is down, there's one or two people picking the other up. So when, you know, maybe you've got a bad string of deals and you're really struggling, you know, not only can I call one of them and just get their idea, and they do the same with me, you know, hey, what would you do in this situation? Or, but and this is just an example, but let's say, you know, looking at a month and looking at that pipeline and what's on the board, what's closing, like, okay, I have got to pick it up this month. Like that for us, the three of us definitely thrive and jive off of pressure. So again, we help the company by really buckling down when we see that somebody might be struggling and selling, and maybe it's not the hottest month for them, or maybe it's a slow month. So that I think is really important. And I think that is why the longevity of the Hildebrand name is there. And all three of us have very inline morals with how we treat our customers, our clients, and how we want them to be serviced. You know, it is 200% or nothing at all. And that has obviously shown itself that repeat business. You know, there are clients that have bought and sold 10, 15 properties through us, and they continuously, even if their last sale was 20 years ago, they're still referring us business. So we left that lasting impression on them, and they trust us. Yeah. So there's a huge level of trust, because we aren't the type of team or agents that go in and just tell you what you want to hear. I mean, sure, we don't get a lot of listings sometimes because they don't like what we have to say. And then maybe a couple months later, we end up getting that listing anyways, because that was, you know, the honest answer, or the honest path that they probably should take. Right. So a lot of people have always mentioned just the honesty part of it for us, and how honest we are when we're maybe telling them news they don't want to hear.
Yeah. What do you think, you know, the Hildebrand name, the brand has been in the market, you know, we're going on 3 decades. What's the reputation, right? What does that stand for in the community? If you were to, you know, to ask the clients, you ask, you know, people that are connected, involved in the community, that, you know, what would they say that brand stands for?
I mean, if you bring up the brand to anyone, everyone always knows who it is. They immediately think of Kevin. Wow, I've been seeing his signs for 30 years. Oh, he sold my cousin's house, or we used him 5 times. He is really involved in the schools around us. So a lot of people see him at basketball games and football games, and we do have a presence there. Kevin is a huge sports fanatic, so that is kind of where we ended up doing a lot of marketing, because he's always there. So, and it's a good way for him to make those connections. And he's been that way for as long as I can remember. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't tell you how many sales have probably come from him sitting in the bleachers at a basketball game and just gets to talking with someone. And I mean, I think we had 4 deals last year just from, they weren't past clients, just people he was consistently seeing at some of these games, and they just strike up a conversation.
Yeah.
So I think the general, I think, perception, if you were to ask someone randomly, is, oh yeah, I know them, they're realtors, or, you know, they're nice people. I mean, I believe that. I feel like that would be the response. And a lot of them would probably say, oh yeah, I had a bag over the summer from them. So over the summer when we were working with you and trying to rebrand ourselves, just because we did feel stagnant. And the market was starting to shift a little bit, and there's no better time than to do that than at that time. We put boots on the ground and delivered 10,000 bags to our wheelhouse neighborhoods, hung them up on their door. It had a wipe off board in it with our logo for your refrigerator, which was redone from Kevin's last time of making one of those boards, which was like 25 years ago. And every once in a while, we'll find someone who has one of those vintage pieces still. But that was huge for us because it sparked a lot of conversation. A lot of people reached out, hey, got the bag, thanks so much. And it was more of just a, hey, we're still here.
Yeah.
A lot of people knew or know that we were still around. I think we made the switch to EXP about 3 years ago, but we also moved our office. And a lot of people knew where that office was, the little white house with the red door. That's where everybody knew where we were. And we moved from that office. So, you know, that sign's no longer there. So that it's that top of mind. So we did the bags, and then we actually threw a big party at our new office and invited everyone we delivered those bags to. And it wasn't just past clients. It was specific neighborhoods. And we had a great turnout. We had people that were not our clients come by. And I remember the first lady in particular, she came by and she introduced herself and said, I was so impressed by this marketing. When I go to sell, I'm going to call you. And I mean, that right there was worth everything that we did for 2 weeks in the scorching heat. Now, I wasn't personally delivering the bags, but we had some high school kids that pair of parents that we knew and some different outlets that we knew, and offered just a quick way to make some summer cash. And they showed up and they got those bags delivered within 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And I know that was important, you know, as kind of with Kevin and shaking things up, allowing, you know, kind of pushing you to be, you know, more at the forefront and making decisions and kind of the direction of the organization moving into the future. And that was a big deal to do a, you know, kind of a rebrand, to kind of reestablish, relaunch during that time of the year. And, you know, a lot went into that. And I think some good takeaways from a marketing perspective is getting back down into, you know, the physical, the really direct response, a little bit more, you know, rooted foundational, you know, marketing principles with the brand overhaul and like I said, definitely some call to action, but getting that physical lumpy, mail in a bag delivered. It's the reason that I really loved it is because nobody's doing it.
Right.
And that's the differentiation piece that we're all looking for. It's great to imitate on a lot of things, but sometimes we need to zig in the whole zag. Do what nobody else is doing, and nobody's really doing direct mail or lumpy mail or that to that extent. And
at the time the rates had shot up, so there was nobody doing anything of that.
So
stature.
When we went into that, I mean, we knew the intent and the goal is just kind of reestablish. What have we seen kind of the results of that, as now that we're looking, through wrapping up Q4, now getting into Q1. We did that at the end of towards the end of
June.
So beginning of right there at the halfway point going into Q3. So we've got a good half a year with that out there. What has been the return on that decision?
So a couple things. We also followed this up with wrapping our sign car, and it's this little micro van.
Yeah.
We've always had some sort of vehicle that's been wrapped. If it's just a van, see those all the time. Kevin and I had been wanting to do something, whether that was a moving truck, which we've had before, or just a van. And he and I both agreed that was just boring and we just needed something else. So Kevin's the idea guy most of the time. And when he gets something in his mind, I mean, we are full bore. So he was not stopping until he found something. And we got this little Honda Acti, which is, it's got, steering wheels on the opposite side. It looks like a micro mini. The wheels are probably the size of like a donut. It doesn't go over 45 miles an hour, but it is so cool and it turns heads. Even when it wasn't wrapped, it was.
It really does.
So we decided that we were going to wrap it. So we wrapped it and we had the bright idea to do a play off of Scooby-Doo and do the real estate machine. And it looks like the mystery machine with our logos, with our phone number. We've got some QR codes on there. And the back window is Kevin, Mike, and I as the Scooby characters. So while it's really fun to drive, now it really turns heads. And when I drive it, I typically just look straight ahead. But and Kevin, waves to everybody. But so we did that. And so we had a couple things going for us. We had all of these bags that had just gone out. We had this new mystery machine that people were just losing it over. So it opened up just a massive amount of conversation with random people that would call to, talk about the mystery machine, which then, turns into other things. Or, Kevin is really good with names. So if that kind of happened, he would say, oh, do you have a son or daughter that plays so-and-so sport? Or, and he can pick that stuff up really fast. And it just opened the door to a lot of conversation and new relationships. But it also restarted the ones that we already had, and really good ones. So at that point, I think with you, we decided we really had to start nurturing that database better than we've ever done. And for us, we've always gotten into these cycles where we do great for a while and then we quit because we get busy, because I'm doing 25 other jobs and Kevin's out selling and so is Mike. And there's just not enough time in the day. So we started trying to map out what that looked like for us. I've never been a huge fan of email blasts. You know, I know when I wake up in the morning, I've got 50 of them from 50 agents, 10 of which are with one brokerage, and they're all sending me the same thing. I've always just found those to be really hokey.
Yeah.
And it's always bothered me. And I never wanted to go that direction. Because just because of that. But during the rebranding, we did a new website and had that built out to exactly how we wanted it. We've always had these websites that I've just never been crazy about. And so our website is, that rebranding portion for me was really important, because instead of it just being a logo like it always had been, I wanted it to be Kevin, Mike, and I's face.
Yeah.
You will associate the three of us with that logo, not Kevin, not just Mike, not just Robyn. It's the three of us. And so that, with that website, we pushed that out and started kind of marketing what that website would do. And at the time, we were slowly, maybe we were doing some blasts out. Hey, this is our website. Because again, I was very hesitant of, hitting people every week or even once a month. So I think it was around September, maybe. I came to Kitchen Table, and I left there feeling better than I had felt, being able to sit around with a bunch of other agents who are killing it and they have really great ideas. It made me realize we were on the right track. We have the right things in place, but we had to figure out what the constraint was.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was up until that point you and I had been able, I think you probably knew, but I had not quite figured out what that constraint was. And it was really simple and it was really obvious. But going through the process of rebranding yourself, trying to kind of hone in on what that vision is going to be and what you want it to look like, I was really overwhelmed at first. And I think it was right after sometime right after KT, we kind of figured out the constraint was traffic.
Yeah.
So got this great website, got this mystery machine. We just spent, $30,000 on marketing material that people literally delivered on foot. What are we going to do with it? What are we doing with it?
Yeah.
So we set up a weekly email against everything that I had thought or felt before. But mainly targeting sellers. So you and I discussed and figured this out. And again, I think you knew it. I just needed to get there myself and see it for myself, that traffic is the problem. Conversion is not the problem. Fulfillment is never the problem.
Right.
So as you have kind of taught me how to do work backwards. Don't start at the front. You need to start at the end. Okay. Fulfillment. Yeah, we can do that. What's before that? Okay. It's conversion. That's not a problem. Okay. Well, if I don't have traffic, I have nothing to convert. So there's the problem. So we started this weekly email. It's not a lot of hoopla. We try to keep it pretty simple. But one thing we're pushing harder than anything else is market report. CMA, what's your house worth? What is your house worth? We did that the first week and we had a really good turnout. And we started that, I want to say we started that right after Thanksgiving. So there had been some huddles within our team, just, hey, what do we want to see in that? And again, I was, really hesitant and really pushing that I didn't want it to be full of a bunch of crap. What's the color of this season? What's, all this stuff people already know. They get enough of this. They hear it enough. They just want what matters to them. What is valuable? Well, my house is valuable. That's what I really want to know. I really want to know what my house is worth. So that has taken off, and we have a really, really good click rate on what's my home worth every week. So it happens pretty immediately. These get sent out every Wednesday, and the amount of traffic that's coming into our CRM that we're following up on has, again, started the conversation. And if they're not ready to buy now, that's okay. If they want to sell and buy in 6 or 7 months, perfect. Because we all know things can change, and we've had some really great ones too. Some immediate. But Mike and Kevin and I have put a lot of energy into making sure that those are taken care of within seconds of them hitting our system. So the good thing about the way that we work is if the two of them are out on an appointment, I'm there, I can make the call, I can start the conversation, keep it warm, and then either take care of it, or if it was, say, Mike's client or Kevin's specific client, then I would just kind of set him up for that call. Really kind of almost like a ISA.
Yeah. I think it's just finding the dynamic, how we're working together, how we're pushing to get to the desired outcome. And with the, that type of project or rebrand, I've seen where a lot of people do a great job with it, but then what, right? Reach and frequency. We reached a lot of people. We created awareness. Now, what's the frequency to stay? Because we did get back in the forefront of their mind. And I think that's where we had kind of fallen off, right? Just because you've been in the game for 30 years doesn't mean that you're always top of mind for everybody. So what are you doing to stay there, right? To stay top of mind. And that was kind of the backdrop there. We got the little, the little real estate machine that's all over town. It gives us an opportunity through social media. We really reintroduced ourselves to the community. We never went anywhere, obviously, but we just kind of just reminded them, hey, we're here. Hey, we're here. This is what we're doing. This is kind of shaking things up. I look at the bags. I look at the mystery machine more of a shock and awe type of, to get their attention, to let them know, hey, y'all, we ain't gone nowhere and we ain't going nowhere. Mm-hmm. And so now we can get back to our call to action and our message, because now we have a little bit more of a captive audience. Mm-hmm. And I think, kind of the takeaway and the principle for that decision, and, kind of navigating you into kind of the forefront of, okay, hey, where are we taking this thing? Where do we want this ship to go? Is just reintroducing ourselves back into to stay top of mind. Now let's get back to the day-to-day activities. What are we doing monthly, weekly, daily to throw our offers out into that captive audience, to now we have some, now we can get back to business as usual. So I mean, I love it. I mean, I loved what you guys did. I thought it was fantastic. The big telltale was going to be, what do we do after? And just seeing what you guys are doing and executing on it and making the right decision to go after homeowners and go after sellers, which is always the right move. To be able to do that is absolutely key. So, Robyn, what are you, coming up on almost a year, kind of being kind of nudged into navigating the ship into the future? What are you really excited about?
So with all this rebranding and coaching with you and coming to Kitchen Table, where I think our vision was then, while it's still very much the same, some things have changed. Like I've been able to be a sponge around a lot of other agents and teams that have helped me really kind of figure out what the full vision is. I know what the vision and the end goal is and what we want and what our family wants. Because I'm not going anywhere. Kevin's not going anywhere. Mike's not, right. I've got a long way to go compared to them. So, they've got some years on me. So with all of this, it also started to change me personally, not just professionally. So when that starts happening, you start realizing things or seeing things differently. And what's important and what's not. So I am excited to continue that growth, and growth is painful. I mean, I feel like since we started, you've probably seen me in pain mode quite a lot. So, but we're not growing if I'm not feeling that.
Right.
So, I'm excited to hopefully slide into that discomfort a little easier than I probably did a year ago. And I can see that. I noticed that. I noticed the difference from when we first started talking to now. And just even for myself, but also for our business. I've seen a shift in our team and the way that we're doing things, and it's becoming more streamlined. We were streamlined, but there were things we were not streamlined at. So seeing how that is working, and it's also something that I don't have to spend all my time doing the newsletter. We got someone in that place to do that, also take care of social media, which I was handling, and getting rid of that part of it for me, taking that off my plate and finding the right person to handle that allowed me to dive deeper into really what I needed to, and kind of forcefully and painfully, but it's just seeing the traffic. So all of this comes down to the traffic, like we talked about, and I feel like we were kind of like plateauing on that traffic. And I mean, as soon as we actually started implementing this stuff, making those calls to past clients, reaching out just to 10 to 15 people a day, our traffic has shot through the roof. And again, there might be some A, B, and C leads, but those C's are eventually going to move on up the ladder to a B or an A. And obviously we're really pinpointed on the A's right now, just making sure that we're staying consistent. And that's the other thing, is staying more consistent. over the course of 2 years, when the market was crazy, we would be consistent, then it would fall off. Then we'd try to get back into it, and then it would fall off again, just because, of
So hard
manpower.
to get, yeah, when that momentum falls, it's so hard to get it back going again. And I think we forget, how hard it is to get the momentum and the flywheel moving. And then when we, don't pay attention to it and it slows down or comes to a stop, we're like,
Yeah.
we got to remember, it's better to keep it moving than try to restart it. So it's good. No, I think, what you said right there is so key. Letting go, understanding it's a who, not how kind of component when you're kind of in navigating the ship, clear kind of the vision. I mean, we understand we have a legacy vision, but it's also, you're bringing a little different perspective of the vision into the future. And yeah, it's fun to see the transition and the bumps and the bruises, but when you've got, somebody there that supports and is going to be there and making sure they'll do everything in their power to not let you fail. It's, I don't want to say a safety net, but it's a little bit of extra reassurance that helps with some certainty, navigating the waters ahead.
And it's still, when you go through these changes, or you're trying to, I think I had said this at Kitchen Table in Pittsburgh in September, we've kind of ripped everything apart and slowly putting it back together. And there are several very core pieces that didn't get ripped apart, but kind of everything around it, and just putting it back together the way we want to see it, and getting rid of the stuff or getting rid of things that are not working or not high producing. Like, that's definitely something that I've learned from coaching with you is making that list of priority. Like, what are my high producing? Okay. What can wait? What isn't going to produce anything? Yeah. I don't know. It's been a huge shift for me, but I'm excited where our team is headed, because at some point I would like to see it grow bigger than it is. Yeah. We do have another buyer's agent who we love, and he does a great job. He's a great converter, so he love that. And then we have another guy coming on that has a huge passion for real estate, which I'm very excited to see, because I don't think I've ever met anybody with the amount of passion for real estate that he has. So, and then we have another guy on our team who is doing our social. He's setting up kind of those systems, doing some landing pages, things like that, very quickly when I ask him to get those put together for something that we might be doing. So I feel like everything, we have good people, but I'd like to see that get bigger. And I would like to maybe hand off another couple hats. And I know, at some point, Kevin's not getting any younger. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to sell until he's 85. So, there's a lot of personal and professional goals there that this coaching is so important to get that there. Yeah. Because without it, you might as well have just thrown confetti in the air when we first started talking, because that's how it felt, right? And now we're finely tuning that. So, but these agent to CEOs and Kitchen Table coaching, all this stuff is right at everyone's fingertips, and it's so important to spend the time to do it, because a lot of things that got said at Kitchen Table or get said on these podcasts, I may not be able to utilize it or do it the way that person utilizes it. It is to my model, but most of the time it'll ping something. Yeah. And then I can get the wheels turning, and I can see how can we implement this to make ourself better. Because if you you are running a team, you want everybody to be successful. I don't like failing. I like perfection. So learning that is not always going to happen has helped me.
Yeah.
It's easier when it's just yourself. You can manage yourself to be that way.
Now you're responsible for others.
Yes. And you can't do that with everybody.
That's right. I love it, man. Robyn, I appreciate you. It's fun to see the growth. From where we started to where we're at, and knowing where we're going. So extremely proud of you. I know getting out of your comfort zone and even doing this is growth. So definitely what it takes.
I have sweaty palms, that's for sure.
That's what Agent to CEO is all about, right? The sweaty palms. That means we're growing. Yeah. Awesome. Well, appreciate you. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you next time. See ya.